Thank you. Now watch this drive.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Party Affiliation. Every week we're going to run the same drill: what's true, what's missing, and who stands to gain. The only side we're on is reality. We're not here for party line politics. We're here to discuss the history, the propaganda, and the unknown, to give you guys insight across a variety of personal perspectives, stretching all the way across from Hollywood to the CIA. So welcome in. Nothing is as it seems. As you can see tonight, we've got 5 people on the air, not just 4 as normal. There's a crib midget in one of these squares, whichever one it is, after we record and edit this episode. But Chris and your lovely baby, welcome in, dude. You have some fun opinions tonight on TSA. I would love to hear those.
Dude, I just think it's really interesting what's going on right now. And from what we were talking about earlier, I think it might be one of the first really good examples in a long time where the narrative just fell absolutely flat. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of a beautiful thing to watch. You could tell that the narrative that was supposed to take hold is Democrats do or take principled stance on X, issue, right? And they're going to use the power of the purse of Congress to hold up TSA until they can get this ICE issue under control. Because, a lot of people forgot, and this is one of the things where they stepped on their own crank, that ICE got completely and totally funded back during the big, beautiful bill that we were all supposed to be super, super excited about, but was really just massive government spending. But the Republicans passed it this time. So we were supposed to be happy about it because whatever, I don't know. But anyway, ICE got funded
Still pissed
then.
about that.
Yeah, exactly. ICE got funded back then. And so they've been holding up TSA for it, right? But I think what they forgot is that airports are one of the only places where CNN is actually played on a loop on every TV. So
Right.
People are standing in 5-hour
Doctor's offices.
lines looking at Democrats on CNN talking about how they're holding up TSA lines. And you're just like, you guys didn't think that through at all, did you? Like, not even a little bit. So it's been pretty funny to watch.
It's so funny too, because that's what it takes, is to inconvenience somebody. That's where you are going to lose every time. If it's bothering somebody over there, you don't care. But if you miss your plane,
Right.
Now you give a big shit. That's why.
For sure. And look
Right.
at the people that still have the means to travel constantly. I mean, you're looking at the upper middle class and up of America
Right.
that's going through the airport every day. And then who's the most pissed about it of the people that are going through the airport? Everybody that has whatever TSA clear is now, whatever TSA
Sure.
pre-check is now, all the people that pay the premiums to get the services are the ones that are the most pissed off. And
Sure.
they're the ones that are in the airport the most often. And you're just like,
Right.
damn, talk about just that meme where the dude like ollies the entire flight of stairs just to jump on the rake at the bottom. It's
Sure.
like, that's exactly what you did, dude.
There's a tray flip on the way down.
Yeah.
Whack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the country depends so much on air travel. It's not just personal things, it's business too, right? If you've got to leave your family to go do something stupid, especially if it's something stupid and corporate, and now you have to be at the airport for 4 hours standing in line, and then you have to do it on your way back too. It's just so much of that is frustrating to a wide swath of people. It'll touch not just the people who are standing in line as well, but the people on the other end and the people you're leaving. So you're inconveniencing quite literally everybody.
Right.
Like if you've got a son or a daughter trying to come home for something, or you're a husband or a wife or whatever, like everybody's being inconvenienced.
Well, too, and you can see. Sorry about that, Tom. But there's a CNN bit that I saw earlier where they're going in and they're interviewing people, right, to try to like man on the ground. Let's get some polling data.
Hard hitting journalism.
Sure, and they're talking to this lady in Atlanta, and she's like, "We left our house at 3:45 in the morning to be here before 5, and I've been waiting in line for," she said, like between 4 and 5 hours, right? Like, we're pissed. And the CNN person's like, "Well, but what do you think about the fact that Trump's bringing ICE in to help move things along at the airport?" And the lady literally meant, "If it gets the line moving faster, I'm glad they're here." And CNN was like,
Right.
Next.
Way to miss the point, too, you know? Like, let's go to everybody in line who's angry as shit and try to make a political point. You know, if I wanted to wait 5 hours in line for something, I'd go to Disneyland.
I think this is more, to me, well, there's a couple of things at play. One, it's the Democrats versus the Republicans in trying to gain power over this by inconveniencing the public. And I think right now it seems to me that Republicans have a lot more to lose the longer this goes on than Democrats do. But Democrats, I was just going through social media before coming on, and there's a planned protest at Atlanta Airport for this week, an ICE protest.
There's no more room for people there.
To say this should speed things along just well.
Right. It is just when you think that, you think the left is going to gain momentum, people are going to hate you. If you show up at Whistles and freshly printed signs to make them waiting in line for 3 hours even more miserable, it's going to backfire gloriously on them. Just as this whole blame shifting from the Republicans to the Democrats saying, "Oh, they won't sign this, to get the funding." If you're on the left, it's like, no, hey, this, I know, it sounds like a good idea, and the optics and everything, it's on brand, but the favor that we're currying right now with the public is going to be shot as soon as you get, these big fat ass, dyed-haired chicks in there blowing whistles and screaming at everybody. I just can't think of anything worse than standing in line and listening to those assholes. It'd be like, okay, I might be pissed at Trump, but I'm more pissed off at these fucking people.
I'm interested. Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but you said you think that Republicans stand to lose more than the Democrats do in this one?
I kind of feel right now the momentum is definitely shifted toward the left. I take this TSA situation and I pile it on to the anti-war sentiment that's going around right now. And I think with the American public, just the more that you could pile on to be a problem that Trump brought on, the more it's going to be a problem for the right. And so I think this just adds to this stew that's being concocted right now leading up to the midterms. But I also think that, as far as flying goes to the general public, this is part of that demoralization campaign where they don't want you flying anymore. It's to me, to make it as uncomfortable and as tedious as possible to keep you at home. And with the ultimate goal, keeping you into the 15-minute city so you're programmed that way to say, I used to be able to fly to get to this, but, maybe I'll drive now, or, just getting people used to the idea of not using air travel to get somewhere as like you would hop on a bus to get around.
Mm-hmm. It's working, though, bro, because, think about it. You don't – I don't want to travel anymore for all the things, and I do periodically, not as obviously as much as I used to be. Like, you don't want to do it in general because they've made it so miserable. But then you add all this stuff on top. You add 6 hour wait. Like, I don't understand. Like, I get some people have to travel for work. Like, you got to go to this meeting in New York, and I'm sorry, you got to wait through these long lines. Like, I think that they're winning. I think that you're right. I think this does bite the conservatives in the ends. But who they're winning politically. That is the so-called elite, whatever we're calling them. You know who's really winning? Hertz Enterprise. Because I'm like, I'm not standing in that line. I'm gonna rent a Suburban, and I don't know if they don't do Suburbans that often, but whatever. But I'm gonna rent whatever. Like, I'm literally not doing it, and I hate that they're winning and like trying to get us to not, expand the carbon footprint and go along with this BS climate change stuff. But honestly, like I have watching those videos in Atlanta gives me like serious anxiety. It's like,
Well, I think you're right.
what,
Imagine
6 hours?
Yeah.
if you're flying interstate, right? Like, let's just say you're going from Orlando to Miami, and you're like, I've got to be at the airport in Orlando 6 hours early, and then you're like, I could rent a car and be in Miami faster than me waiting in line and then getting on a plane. Like,
By a long shot.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to I tend to agree with Tom's analysis, but like more from 2 degrees of separation, if that makes sense. I think net it probably is going to benefit Democrats more, especially come the midterms. But I don't think that it's going to be a 1-for-1 in that, oh, this is like I'm blaming this on Republicans because they're in charge. I think, and this just may be the circles that I'm running around in, that people are fed up with government in general. And
Yeah, I
so
think that's true.
they don't see this as a Democrat or a Republican problem. They see this as those idiots up on the hill, and this is all bullshit. But because of that, here's where the second degree comes in. They're going to largely check out of the midterms because they're just demoralized in government in general. And any time that the voter, the electorate checks out, Democrats will clean up. Just because they do a better job of mobilizing their base to get out regardless. Whereas like most right-leaning people will be, stay home.
Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to say I agree with you because the stay out of my life Republicans who did come out and vote because Biden was so bad are going to be like, yeah, here we go again. We fell for it twice. And like you said, the thing that it makes me think of though is there's been this sentiment for the last several years because of government shutdowns about states petitioning to be able to hire private contractors to go into airports and do security. There's a bunch of military members who would or retired cops or whatever, who would be very skilled at doing that. And if they could get something like that underway to where they could keep the federal agency out of it and then hire a private company to come in and run these machines or whatever like that, then again, it just proves the fact that you're dependent on the government for something, and because they can't do their job, everybody else is hurting. But if the states could find a way to get a private entity in there to alleviate that, the first states to start doing that, honestly, would showcase a lot of power.
We talked about that with Morgan. I don't understand why they're not. Yeah, why they're not looking at PMCs to come in and solve that problem.
Sure.
And get rid of TSA completely.
Well,
That's the thing, though. When you privatize it, like you can privatize it like you privatize, obviously, different stakes, different level. This is actually a terrible example, but like a gated neighborhood or some of these things who hire these terrible companies who no one's ever done anything. If you're going to do it that way, though, you got if you're talking about airport security or you're talking about totally different conversation, which we're not having right now, like school security for the kids. Like it's got to be like we need some knuckle draggers in there who have actually done the real shit.
I agree.
Who actually care about outcomes doing it. So like if you go that PMC route, I think that would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But like it's got to be like you've got to meet the standards of like what it would have been to get hired by GRS or something. Like you've got to meet like these. There's got to be some
not the fat chick handing out badges where I work.
You can't deny though
security.
that it would be hard to do worse than the TSA as it's currently.
Well, the TSA is a country club paid security service, like
right.
Well, up until 9/11, TSA didn't exist. There were private security companies that were handling airport security. And then after 9/11, of course, like everything else, there was a knee-jerk reaction to create something. So everything is one size fits all. I'm all in the camp of privatizing whatever you can and getting the government away from it. But once government sinks its teeth into something, they're not going to let go of it. To me, the TSA, you can take it seems to me you could take a TSA agent and put them in the post office or take a postal employee and put them at TSA and the results are going to be the same. And I'm not just pointing out Postal Service, that goes for DMV, anywhere else. You're not getting people who is, to Drew's point, have a security background of some sort. You're just getting anybody to come in, train them up, and tell them what to look for, and have them go for it. But as far as points of failure go, I just don't see it with TSA and this. I know they got rid of the shoes, but this sort of stringent kind of screening that you go through to get in with the body scans and the anal logic machine that your bag goes through. And
I like that one.
You want me to put your bag through that? Yeah.
Well, it's full on security theater, right? And anybody that knows anything about security, security contracting, or anything like that will take a look at TSA. And this isn't even conspiracy. Go back and look at the last 2 times that they've been red tested. For anybody that doesn't know, red testing is when an outside unit will come in and attempt to violate security. They
happens
do it
a lot, actually.
With a mandate. They do it on military posts all the time to see if they can sneak onto post and gain access to facilities and things like that. And there's a mandated amount of times that they have to get red tested. Go back and look, because it's public record, at the last few times TSA has been red tested, and look at how many firearms have been able to be smuggled into airports. It is a ridiculous amount.
If I could back you up, I mean, the way you described
too.
it sounds like it happens randomly, or not a lot. It happens a lot, actually. And I know for a fact that you can, because I've seen it, you can get an entire M4 broken down into its major groups and parts and ammunition separate of those things all the way through TSA. And then you hand them the card saying, you failed, this was an exercise, let me talk to your supervisor. And that happens very often.
Yeah. No, the stats are terrible. Going back to the staffing, though, like what's so crazy about it is to do it right, because we do things so wrong in this country, particularly government. I'm looking at government. We do things so wrong, so then you have to in this conceptual discussion that we're having, raise the bar and be like, well, okay, you've got to have 4 or 6 or 8 years of white soft or black soft experience. You've got to have done this, that, or you've got to have done stuff, right?
Sure.
But at the end of the day, the difference between those dudes who would apply for those jobs and get it and pass the standards, and the difference in the people who are applying for TSA and work there, I'm sure there's 2 or 3 of you who work for TSA who are actually good people. So for you couple, please don't take offense to this. The rest of you have a toy badge, and you don't matter. But literally the difference is if we hadn't gone so wrong, the difference isn't how badass, how many doors have you kicked, how many security details have you done for U.S. or foreign dignitaries overseas. It's not that. The difference is how much do you care about the outcomes. That's really what it boils down to. The guys who go and do stuff in the soft community, the elite levels of the intel community, yada yada yada. It's the difference. Yes, there's discipline, there's training, there's passing this, that, and the other. But it comes down to I care.
Yeah.
And these people just don't. I was talking about it with a buddy of mine at lunch today about a totally unrelated issue. We didn't get into, shocker, although it's pretty front and center right now. We didn't get into TSA issues, but he was dealing with something with government. He's like, they just don't care. Everyone I encounter doesn't care. It's like, no one in the government cares, bro.
Right.
These are the laziest, dumbest employees on the planet, and they're smart in a sense because they've discovered a job that you can't get fired from. You have great benefits. You have great this, that, and the other, and you don't have to care at all. But that's what we're missing. You could take almost anything the government's doing and make it better and make it somewhat usable and worthwhile. Most of it's not. If you would just add that one factor that doesn't, it's not did you pass BUDS or not or the Q course. It's do you care? Do you care about what happens here?
There's almost no incentive because you can't get fired. I mean, dude, I could give you 100 examples of civilians I've worked around when I was active duty who know they can't get fired, so they don't do anything. It's just accountability at that point. And then to your other point, it's not like these soft dudes can't apply for jobs at TSA. They can. They just don't want to because they're not the personality type to want to go stand there and look through your luggage and deal with a bunch of Karens all day. That's why, So you'd have to have somebody like Elon Musk would have to create a company and then pay these dudes like 3x what the average TSA salary is to even get them in there, So you could go apply, like Drew, you could go apply at TSA right now and go wand me to death if you wanted to, but you're not going to because that's a brain dead job and it's just not your personality.
I'm not gonna say what I was going to say. Yeah.
Well, I might completely stick my foot in my mouth with this one, and somebody is going to be like, well, actually, but I'm just going out off of experience. I don't think, does TSA have their own like QRF type response unit? Because anytime that I've ever seen,
I don't know.
No, it's all airport
police.
security at that point. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Airport police.
Yeah, if they have to break glass in case of emergency, it's local police, local SWAT, and/or FBI.
Yeah, pretty sure that's
showing up to back them up. Like they're not even carrying weapons. So that should tell you exactly what the level of GS and the level of training that you're working with. They don't even have the ability to respond to their own crises. And you're supposed to be the front line to protect an airplane.
Yeah.
Well, national, never caught a terrorist.
Security, like local, regional,
the DOT
national security
version of a crossing guard, bro. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying like what is.
That's 100% true though. But they've got the attitude. Some of them. So I've met some. I actually know some randomly. I don't know how anyways, but like a lot of them have the attitude of like, I'm a federal officer. It's like, really? You're wearing a blue shirt, like you work at like Captain D's, and you have no gun, you have no authority. Like, let's stop it. Like, this is the dumbest thing.
Right.
They're like the stewardesses and the whatever you call the gay guys who do it too. But like they're like those guys who got all this power trip, this complex during COVID. It's like, I'm enforcing federal law. It's like, no, you like, stop it, bitch. Like, you're not doing that.
Right.
You serve me crackers and water, and
First
if I'm
of
willing
all-
to pay you something more.
The cops are
of
going to
all-
come on this plane and remove me, not you, Barbara.
Right.
Yeah.
First of all, that mother effer right there ain't real.
Oh yeah.
You guys all remember that?
I love you,
that,
Tiffany
yeah.
Gomez. Let's talk.
I really want to know what she
I'm
saw.
happily married, but like let's. Yeah.
I don't buy the narrative on that one either. But no, it's Tom. I wouldn't doubt it, man. The inefficiency of the government can do a lot of different things, and one of those is a lack of confidence in anything that they manage. And it wouldn't surprise me if all of this incompetence is just weaponized incompetence to predictive program your brain into believing that this is normal. And so you start to sort of the way that people begin to self-censor themselves because they think it's not worth it to stick up for themselves, that you'll start to do that to yourself in other ways. I'm just not going to travel. I'm just not going to do this. I'm just going to not do that, because it's a hassle. And the next thing you know, you've abdicated those freedoms.
Right.
And it works, man. Because I mean, I literally already said that. I feel that way. Like my sense is like, if you in the next several weeks, if you guys were like, hey, let's get together, let's go to if you're like
Vegas.
Cabo, I'm like, all right, we're doing it, but like let's get together and do an offsite like powwow for some stuff to strategize. Like, no, not doing it. I don't
It's
want
not worth
to
it
deal
right
with
now.
that right now. My blood pressure is already high enough. Like, I will explode and die in an airport. I just don't want to die in an airport.
I pay to see that.
But yeah, to me, it goes back to conditioning because we're now 3 generations in of people who don't know what airport security was pre 9/11. And so to them, they've been conditioned to think, oh, this is just the way it goes. You take off your shoes, you take off your belt, you remove your computer, your laptop from your bag, and then you put it in, and then you get patted down if a random check. My son, who's 18, has been getting a random check ever since he was 12 years old. So he only knows that when he goes to the airport, he's going to be patted down by TSA for some odd reason that he's a bug in the system now. And
Interesting.
to him, he's been conditioned. What's that?
Maybe that's because of your internet takes.
Oh, I'm sure that might have
IP
something
address.
to do with it.
They take one listen to Tom and they go, "This dude's not smuggling anything, but he sure as shit would work a 12-year-old mule."
Right? But
check his
again, you've taken away the freedom, the autonomy of the human being and of the American to be able to go through a gate at to security, to go through there and walk to a gate and wait for a flight that's incoming to greet, your wife or, a family member. Yeah, or whoever, and then bring them out. Nobody, these generations, and I feel like such an old guy, but have no idea of that concept because they don't know that. They didn't know that there was an actual time where that was possible.
Go watch Home Alone. You can see
100%.
that in real. You can see that they run literally from the door to the gate. Nothing stops them. Yeah,
The entire plot of number 2 is based on that.
correct.
They just let an 8-year-old onto a plane without vetting him or checking his parents or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be an extreme example, but the whole, there's nothing there between you, the door, and the gate is so true.
And that was O'Hare.
Anyway, yeah.
Those are amazing days. Waiting, someone's greeting you right when you come off the jetway.
Right.
Oh, hey! Nice
It's
to
also
see
a nice
ya.
excuse, though, now to be like, well, I can't come in, so I'll just keep doing loops, and then you just jump in, whatever.
Oh, yeah. And then shoulder roll out. All right, you have only a carry-on? All right, I'm going to slow down to about 10, and you get out of the car.
First time I
Nice.
ever met you, Tom, I was doing loops and picking you up in Jacksonville.
That's right.
Well, I have a question for Drew when he's done. Go make your point.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No. You go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask you, Trump posted something on Truth Social, and then it went everywhere else about how we were going to scale back attacks on Iran, and then also floated this idea about the United States and Iran controlling the Strait of Hormuz, which, of course, everybody's going to take off and run with as some sort of tacit admission of we lost or something. But then Israel went and started a new bombing campaign like 4 hours later, escalating tensions. So wanted just want to get your opinion on that. Bad communication or on purpose escalation to
Israel
keep
being
everybody
Israel?
fighting. Right? Yeah, that's my question. Yeah, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm not in anymore. I'll be the first to tell you I don't. We talked about this last week. Like, I'm not going to tell you something I don't know for certain.
Oh yeah.
But you just understand our brother, who's really our daddy, and you see how, because they've done this multiple times. They did this during negotiations back in the day with Israel and Hamas. They did that. Like, this is just who they are. So I see one, taking a step back to Trump's post. So that post comes out, and it's like, that's cute. Like, that's great. Like, it'd be awesome if we didn't send this into full-fledged war and spend a lot of time there and waste a lot of U.S. blood there. I don't care as much about other people's blood, but, like, I care about ours. But it's like, that's not really practical because of who Iran is, how the region is, and then it's not practical because of who our best buddy is. We hang out with these guys in the treehouse who just like to break shit, and so I'm just not optimistic about it because Israel can't have a scenario where we can live with scenarios where everyone kind of gets along and it helps with oil and it helps with regional security. Israel can't. They can't exist in a world where Iran continues. Yes, we've decimated a lot of their stuff. Like, I just don't see how that unfolds. And to their, I understand it from their standpoint as it pertains to this, right? Like, we can't be safe and go to bed at night, put our head on our pillow, knowing that they're out there still plotting. So, like, they want complete and total annihilation. We want to not be involved in a long-term, forever war, where we're losing life and money and resources. But I just don't see how there's a situation where they're satisfied with, like, okay, that was pretty good. We, like, took out the Ayatollah and a lot of leadership, 50-plus people, and we'll move on, because they know Iran really well, You know, like they know challah bread and they know Iran, and they know those two super well. And I don't see them satisfied. Does that make sense? Like, I don't see them satisfied with like, all right, now let's do this together.
To your point, and I'll have to start this off by saying, like, I think that Israel has a far outsized influence on policy in the United States, foreign policy and domestic policy. Like, I'm America first. I want to do what's best for my country and my countrymen. Like, I don't ever want to put another country's well-being above my own, and don't like politicians that do so either. That being said, I think that we've also noticed, and I can hear the keyboards winding up right now. I think that we've noticed that very recently there's also been this wave cresting of, dude, if there are certain people, if they stub their toe in the morning, like, frickin' Israel, man, like, I knew it. And it's like, that's the only piece of analysis that they even choose to recognize, as if there's no other players on the world stage, even though there's hundreds of other countries that are vying for power and all that stuff. So both of those things exist, right?
Very true.
But that being said, to your point, I think that it actually shows that President Trump isn't as swayed behind closed doors as people are accusing him of being by Israel, because when Israel wants to force things, they'll just go out and do it, and like this, like starting a bombing campaign all of their own to put the United States in an awkward position to then have to put up or shut up and back them up as an ally or not. You know what I mean? Because it's like, and my evidence for that, right, is like, because if they were so crafty and manipulative behind closed doors and it was working that well with the American president, then they wouldn't have to resort to moves like that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think you're right. I think that's a fair assessment. I think that they want what they want. They're going to do what they want to do. They win with a lot of our politicians. They don't win with all of them. And then there's some miscalculations on our part where we'll get them to do what we want because we're America. And then they're like, no, mic drop, we're Israel. And we're just going to do whatever we want. And to a certain point, like, an extent, like, by the way, Israel, like, I pick on you sometimes. Like, I do like you. And I do respect the fact that you're like, we're going to do our own thing. I'm all for that. Just, sometimes the lines cross and then it doesn't work for us.
It's like America. any of these European countries, I'd want to be allies with them if they fucking behave. I'll talk shit about Germany or France or the UK all day long if they want to behave this way. The same with Israel. They're no different. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're Jews. It has to do with the fact that you're another country that the United States helps out all the time, and then you don't want to play ball.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it to me, it feels like you have two people who are in a fight. They're in a street fight, and they come to a point where they're like, okay, we've traded enough punches. Let's just call it a day. Do what you need to do. We're going to regroup, do what you need to do. And then one of the guy, our guy, being America's friend, short little dude, comes up, it delivers a nut punch to the guy that you thought you had negotiated kind of a deal with, of saying, okay, let's go hands off for a second, to get you back into the fight. And it's like, dude, you just need to relax. You need to, as Drew says, take your coloring book and sit over there while the two behemoths, talk this out. But I don't think that's possible. I don't think with, one of the things, guys know that I'm really into symbolism, and this whole sort of, the patch that the IDF is wearing that shows the Greater Israel Project. It's like, to me, that needs to be addressed. If this is really about Iran's nuclear capability, what does that patch mean? What's the end goal? And then it turns into, why are you picking on us? Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. What are you doing? Well, this is not, we just want to have our land and live in peace. It's totally not that. It's like, you guys have another agenda that you're not telling us, and you're not being honest about it. And that's where I get hung up with them, with the tiny hats, especially the Likud party. I don't care about Israel. They could exist, they could not exist. Whatever, if you are a country and you need billions of dollars from another country to be a country, I don't think you're a country. So, stand on your own. Do whatever you need to do. If that means fighting everybody in the Mideast, have at it. We'll try and broker some sort of peace deal, but I don't think we should throw our hat into the ring.
You described it that way. I've described it in the past like a drunk white girl in a bar that constantly drags her boyfriend into fights that he doesn't want to be in. Like I was just vibing, Tiffany. What now? And next thing you know, you're getting a left hook from some other dude at the bar, and you're like, what? Because the chick was mouthing off. You're like, what the hell, man?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good way to describe it too. I don't know. I don't know where this ends. I think it'll be really. Look, when it comes to I would just be cautious to the people listening and watching when it comes to the president, not because I'm trying to doubt the president. I do doubt the president on several things. I also back him on several things. But when it comes to, we think that it's going to be quiet for the next several days, and we think that there's some positive stuff coming. Obviously, Israel went and did what they did right after that. But, there's so many people who just take everything verbatim and say, oh, okay, we're good because the news said this, or the president said this, or the White House said this, the Secretary of War said this. That's not, you're old enough. You could be 12 years old watching this show, and you shouldn't be, and go tell your parents right now you're doing it and apologize. But it doesn't take much to figure out, that's just not how it works. It's not going to go that way, especially when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, I would just say sit back and watch and enjoy the ride. And I don't want to say that in a casual way because there's lives on the line. That's not what I mean. But, this is not, we're not just all right, in the nenext few days, we're going to figure out the Straits of Hormuz and going to come to peace with Iran and everything's going to be great and we're going to install a leader and we're going to do this, that. It's not that easy. It can be done, but it's not that easy.
Well, and also too, when you mentioned don't take the government's word for it, verbatim. Yeah, I agree with that, and I also agree. I don't listen. I don't take what the media says verbatim either as being honest brokers of information, especially we had this missile launch to Diego Garcia. And then you hear people on social media going, oh, look, they do have the capabilities of reaching Poland. Iran has the ability to reach Poland or Germany or anywhere in Europe. And it's okay, and the people saying this on social media, for the most part, especially the hard writers, are the ones who thought Diego Garcia was a middleweight boxer back in the 60s, have no idea what that island is, but just know that they've been told that missile launch came from Iran, which to me, did it come from there? I don't know. I don't know anything for certain, but it does seem weird to me when you have Iran who, when this first started, and they started firing missiles at other countries, for a lot of their missiles, they were targeted at U.S. bases, but Diego Garcia seems just a little bit out of play to be able to send it there. And then, there's no real proof of it. I don't know. Did it come from them? I don't know. And, I would just say, like everything else, the bottom line is I wouldn't believe everything that you're told. And this is one of those cases where I'm just extremely skeptical about it.
Well,
I know that Diego.
Exactly the way that you started that point, Tom, is precisely the reason I don't understand why anybody watches White House press conferences at all, at least when the press secretary is speaking. Because to me, it's like watching two geriatric patients play ping pong. You're just okay, you're going to spin it on the left, and then the press secretary, their entire job is to spin it on behalf of the White House, and then they just go back and forth, and at the end, nothing of any substance was put out here at all. And I don't know why people pay attention to it. I'm sorry I cut you off, Brendan.
No, I think Carolyn Levitt does a better job than Kintaji, whatever the hell her freaking name
100%.
is. She's definitely given some. She's given. She has right. Yeah, low bars and all that.
You're right.
I was just gonna say about
Green Jean Pierre is who you're looking for.
Thank you. Yeah, Kintaji's the justice. There's so many weird
Justice.
K names.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Because she was, yeah.
They don't all look the same. That's not what I'm saying, guys. Diego Garcia, though, is a place to launch strategic bombers. It has a lot of strategic importance for the United States, and that's why I see why they want to target it. We tend to put a lot of long-range bombers there. And I have seen that, like, intel reports have said that Iran has brought in Lebanese and Pakistani scientists to help them with their ballistic missile program and stuff like that in the past, which isn't outside the realm, I think, of something the Iranians would do. But it does seem like a really stupid maneuver at this point. You got to know that you're not going to hit it, first off. It's a major escalation because of the significance strategically of an island like Diego Garcia to blow up the flight line, right? Or hit air assets on that island. It does seem like a very dumb, level of escalation, but I also wouldn't put it outside of the death throes of a regime that knows it's collapsing. The other part of it, too, I was going to bring up is the thing no one really talks about either is the fact that this hasn't inspired an internal uprising of the Iranian people as well, which was the other part of the messaging for this 2 weeks ago. Just saying.
Yeah, that's fair. I saw a piece of analysis earlier today, though, on the Middle East death blossom that I found to be particularly compelling, and it just had to do with what Iranian war doctrine actually was. So the IRGC was designed to kind of splinter into 31 mostly autonomous units in the event of the fall of the Ayatollah. Because there's 31 provinces, and then each one of those provinces has a certain amount of drone missile capability, whatever, return fire capability, and that in the event of the fall of the Ayatollah, those 31 independent units going back to those provinces would basically enlist all of the local police and whatever up under that unit, take control over all of the military capabilities in that province, and then operate autonomously to include a certain target deck that each of them had based on their location in the country and proximity to other countries and targets and of opportunity and so on and so forth, all that stuff. I'm not going to get bogged down in too much of the minutia. But the main point of the analysis was the fact that you saw Iran do the death blossom, and how there's talk of the White House talking to whatever remains of Iranian leadership, and yet all this stuff is still happening sporadically in the background, actually shows that the IRGC, and take this with a grain of salt, but this was the analysis, that the IRGC was fractured, that the regime is in dire straits, and now you're seeing that basically end of the world war doctrine taking place, to where these units are now operating independently of each other. The reason it doesn't look like there's any type of coherent return fire strategy or defense is because there's not. You've got
that makes sense.
This broken IRGC that's just kind of like when the brain's disconnected from the body and you have random electro physiological spasms, like that's what you're watching. And I was like,
that makes sense.
It would stand to reason, based on what you're seeing in the news, right? That seems like it's closer to the truth than not, but just an alternative viewpoint back against the America's already lost this war and Iran's still strong, and there's not like so.
Anybody saying we've lost is dumb, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like the fact that because
that's such a bad take.
It is. And to your point, Chris, right, if there's 31 individual groups, right, who have now, for all intents and purposes, federalized the militias around Iran, and they're operating independently, that's a lot to deal with. It just is, precision strikes and all that apart, like that is going to take a long time to deal with. So just because, and this is true, the risk of moving ships through the strait is risky still, because Iran can still hit those ships and will hit those ships, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that the United States isn't quote unquote winning or incapable of winning and projecting its power basically whenever it wants. It just means that, again, it's like when the Houthis were firing at ships going through the ocean as well. That risk is always going to be there. This isn't It's not like there's 500 dudes over here and we know there's a set amount of 500 dudes, and once we kill all 500 of them, that's it. You know, it's like, I think people have sort of come to this binary in their brain that everything is as simple as that, and that, well, because the Strait of Hormuz is still under threat, then the U.S. must be losing. Like, that's not even close to being true at all. We're flying A-10s and B-1 bombers. Like, that's called air superiority. Like, that's not losing, you know?
Yeah.
Low and slow, baby.
Exactly.
Well, some people just don't want it to be successful, and I get it. Like, I'm not pro forever war. Like, if we do this the right way, then it works. But, like, having it not go perfectly or having it not look like this outcome that you want in your mind, which, by the way, doesn't matter. Your outcome, mine too. Like, our outcomes don't matter. Like, and that doesn't determine whether it's successful or not. Like, if everything we have done there so far has been largely successful, and that's not me saying I support everything we've done. It's also not me not saying I don't support everything we've done. It's just matter of fact. And if we want to do this, we can do that. Like that whole take that it's not going well is like the dumbest thing ever. It's like, what else do you want from our men and women who are out there doing amazing work? You can say you don't like that they did it, but like they're doing it well.
Mm-hmm. Now, I was just going to say, the one thing I was going to say about the group of people who seem to want the U.S. to lose this, because I think that's where a lot of these content creators are coming from, like the Ian Carrolls, the Jake Shields, the Valhalla VFTs, the Candace Owenses of the world. I think they do genuinely want to see the U.S. get its teeth kicked in. And I don't think that they're even anti-war. I think they're just anti-interventionalists, and I think that they are anti-American, quite frankly, and what America means in the present context. And that's what I've boiled down, that for me, most of this America First movement that isn't what we're talking about is an isolationism movement and a non-interventionalist movement. And you can be that, but we have to get off this idea that using the military automatically means we're going to get bogged down in a forever war. It's like this hesitation that comes from this that could cost, lives and resources. And to prove that it doesn't have to be that, look what we just did in Venezuela. Boom, boom, right. In and out. Well, you don't have to.
The problem is historically we've not had those references, at least recently, right, where, up until Venezuela, up until Midnight Hammer, up until this, for now, we'll see where this goes. Like, everyone's got PTSD, so, like, I'm not taking their side. Like, I'm pro-isolationalist. I don't even want to say that word, 'cause I'm not pro that. I'm pro us taking care of us, and then interjecting when it makes sense for us and or our partners, because of it's for us. Like those kind of things. But you can understand why some people, not necessarily the names that you mentioned, but you can understand why some are like, we can't do this anymore because we've never been able to do it. Like, we just have never executed this well. This administration, even though they get a lot of things wrong, they get a ton of things right too, they've actually pulled this stuff off really damn well, which is...
I agree with you, man. I agree.
And I feel like we've done a pretty good job, Brandon, of making the point that you have to have both a foreign policy and a domestic policy. Like both of those things have to be in place. Like, you have to be able to communicate to the American people what they are, what success looks like. Give them metrics. Let them know when you're winning, right, or when you're pulling up short. But to your point, Drew, I think that it's perfectly reasonable, to say, hey, this is just a hypothetical administration, not the Trump administration, but for a hypothetical administration to say, under this administration, we are prioritizing domestic policy over foreign policy for the next 4 years. That's not to say that foreign policy doesn't exist, but it is to say, like, under this administration, we're going to put a spotlight on domestic policy because it's been not paid attention to, for lack of, there's an actual word that defines that better. Ignored, right?
Right.
But you can't, like, you still have to do both, and to the people that want to go full on isolationist, it's like, I would ask them, okay, I understand in theory what you're after, what does that look like then? If you get everything you want, what does American foreign policy look like under your
Right.
I think they think it means like a full Monroe Doctrine enforcement, maybe, and then there's probably some of them who don't even want that. But I don't think they realize just how much American foreign policy has shaped their lives at home, right? Like, if you want an example of that, just look at gas prices right now, right? American foreign policy makes those go up and down. It does. And if you think your life is going to remain the same, and I mean that to say that the life you've come up in is going to remain the same if America just slammed the door shut on everything it had going on around the world and went full internal, it's not going to. Like, that's just, we're all connected here, not to be all Greenpeace and gay. That's not what I mean. Like, the world itself is interconnected, and that's just your life would change drastically. Your children's lives would be very different from the way you grew up if that's what happened. It doesn't mean everything is going to be better. It also doesn't mean everything is going to be worse, but it's not going to be the same, and it's probably not going to be the same in a way that you like, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's the old 2000, like, all of the, I mean, I can't remember who made the point.
Should be good
like,
now, Tom.
All of the different actors and skill sets that are involved in just making a pencil, you know?
Right. Yeah.
It's like you've got wood that comes
Graphite.
from wherever, graphite mined in Africa. Like, the tin is made over here, the rubber is taken from here.
Right.
Then they all show up in a factory in Atlanta, Georgia, or whatever the case is, just to get your number two. You know what I mean? But to your point, if you guys get what you want, as far as like full-on isolationism, great.
Well, you can look at it from, it comes up in the war conversation, but you take a step back to the previous administration. This is still a conversation now, but on a different scope and scale. It comes up in war like, oh, we don't need to do this. Let's just defend our borders and take care of us. There's elements of that make total sense. There's parts of it that do, and then you get to a point where it stops to make sense. It ceases to make sense. But you can look back to previous administration. There's lots of conversation for the first time ever, not the first time ever, but on a broader scale, about BRICS, which is not necessarily conflict oriented. It's just, yeah, you can pull back and not partner with these guys and help these guys and defend them and do a security for oil deal and do a this for that deal. But all of a sudden you're boxed out and it's a totally different world. It's just, the point is it's never that simple. And I think the answer is usually in between. I say that a lot. I maintain it on this. I think there's some, in terms of national security and in terms of, how we do our foreign policy and spending, there's some answers in the middle that aren't like, let's just go fight with everyone and protect everyone and let's just not do anything and just stay here and watch Netflix. We could probably meet in the middle. Like, everyone's got some interesting ideas there, but like, it doesn't have to be, my point is in this, it doesn't have to be war related. It can be deal related, and the net outcome is still terrible for us. Like, if BRICS, the momentum BRICS was starting to get kept going, we've taken out some of the countries who were going to be in that conversation. The main ones are still there. Like, if that was like, you get my point. Like, there's a lot of other ways where it's like you can't just totally go into a cave and become a hermit, or you will lose.
I actually would push back a little bit on the statement you made about BRICS not being confrontation oriented, because I do think it is. Everything, the way that China has waged war against the United States and what it calls an unlimited war or unrestricted warfare, everything is a way to wage war economically, militarily, all of it. BRICS was designed to challenge the petrodollar, and I say that to say that it's interesting because the sort of connectedness that BRICS wants to bring about, even though it does challenge the petrodollar, this concept that we're all talking about by describing the interconnectedness of global supply chains and logistics and manufacturing and all of that, this is a concept that's been around for a long time, especially since like the Industrial Revolution, for sure, that the interconnectedness of everybody and the way we depend on one another is supposed to mitigate conflict and grand scale conflict, and it never has. There was a book, and the name of it escapes me, but it came out like a year before World War I happened, and it basically was this economics theory on how the interconnectedness of Europe because of the Industrial Revolution would undo hundreds of years of conflict between these nations that used to be kingdoms and, fiefdoms and all these things, and that the interconnectedness of Europe would prevent a conflict ever happening to the scale of the Franco-Prussian War ever again. And then like a year later, World War I happened. But I'm just saying, this concept that we're describing here, it's never prevented conflict. And the common denominator, why, is just human beings.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I guess when I say like conflict, I mean like where some of these retards who are talking about it from the scope of a hot war versus more.
Yeah, it's not military.
Subtle or Cold War. Like it's it's a different thing. We're in a Cold War with a lot of people. So, but yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think you're spot on.
Word. Appreciate you.
And I do think the word war is for the right. It's kind of it's the gender sort of chaos that the left has, where they can't really define it. Well, it's it's preemptive. It's they come up with all these different terms for it. So Yeah. So getting back to the isolationist, isolationist is to me like communism. On paper, they both sound great, but in reality, they just don't work. And it would be great to be an isolationist, but back to what you guys were saying, everything is so interconnected. And so to me, just every war that we've ever had has to do with money and banking and resources. But this one, I think, going back to the Greater Israel Project, I think that could also be traced to money and banking, because the more land you have and the more access that you have to, like the Ben Gurion Canal Project, that you're going to have competition for the Suez Canal. That's a pretty big windfall if you're a tiny little country, if you can get that going. So the other point that I was making before technology farted in my face was the whole uprising in the metaphor of something happened to Biden and Mexico and Canada, and we were caught in the middle. Mexico was trying to liberate us from Canada, and we started and Canada started bombing infrastructures in cities. I'd be a little bit pissed off, and I would be mad at the people who were bombing. And I think this, goes back to sort of hearts and minds, what SF does, in trying to win people over. So I don't see how, that kind of war fighting is going to help, garner people to go up, rise up on their own and say, you know what, we're done with the mullahs. We want, whatever form of government it is, and this is what we're going to do. Because if nobody is financing that uprising, you're going to throw rocks, or, how is that going to, at that point, you're relying on the dudes with guns who still, are reporting to other people who want to maintain what they have. So I'm not sure, how you would go about doing that unless there was some sort of intervention going on. And then, like Afghanistan and Iraq, how do you know if you're backing the right people?
100%. And that's one of the reasons that to the Iranian, end of world doctrine that I was talking about earlier, one of the reasons that that's actually ridiculously smart by them is because it takes everything that you just said and it turns Iran into a war on 31 fronts in 31 different provinces being controlled by 31 different IRGC commanders. That is an unconventional warfare nightmare. And
not one strategy will work.
It can't. Yeah. So what they're doing basically renders kind of United States, which this might work out to our favor. I'm to your point last week, Drew, I'm playing my cards close to my chest, and I'm waiting to see what comes out of all of this. I'm not making predictions, and I'm not saying, it's like, we totally won this and it's awesome, or on the other side, like, we've
Come
already
on,
lost
dude.
it.
There's so many people waiting to bet on Polymarket with what you're about to say.
I know, right? I know.
Give it to us. Give it to us.
But it spreads everything out so ridiculous that in a way it might almost work out for those of us that don't want a forever war, because you can't go into Iran and wage nation building in the current state that it is, with the IRGC, like I said, spread out to all of the different provinces acting autonomously. You just can't. Yeah. So take that for what you will. Like this has to be a unique, and this is one of those modern problems, modern solutions situation, because what we did in Afghanistan and what we did in Iraq cannot and will not work here, if that analysis is to be believed.
Right.
Pray it's not tried.
Yeah, seriously. It cannot work there, nor has it worked anywhere.
Well, it didn't work. It didn't work before either. But yeah,
coin was
at
dumb
least
as
it
well.
can't even be briefed on paper now.
Right.
Is to my point. Yeah.
Well, the other thing I saw that happened today is Ukraine hit Russia's largest oil depot. And that seems, timing-wise, very, very interesting, because with everything that's going on in Iran and how much oil China gets from Iran, and obviously a lot of these decisions being made by the Trump administration in Iran have a focus on China too. So China was going to have to buy more oil from Russia, and now Russia's largest oil depot was hit by a Ukrainian attack, which is going to make it
really
way.
about Ukraine though.
That's my very first
I'm ginning up there. Yeah,
Okay.
the timing there seems really interesting for that to happen, because again, that's a blow to the Chinese certainly, and also to the Russians. So was it Ukraine? Was Ukraine asked to do this by the American administration? Was it the U.S. doing it? By other means. This is my topic, because the timing is impeccable.
Look, Ukraine has hot women. Like, let's give that to them. Congrats.
Check.
Come here to America. It's safe if you go to the right city.
Yeah, no, go to Charlotte.
But like, that's what's been so.
R.I.P.
I mean, again, we talked about this earlier in a different context for people like listening to headlines and listening to this. If there's one thing, I wish I never got into conservative media or national security commentary. That's the first thing. I wish I never did. I'm glad to be spending time with all of you now. You guys are my friends, audience. Love you too. But since I did, if there's one thing that I could impart on everyone, is just don't take everything verbatim. Don't take everything. Like, the Ukraine example is such a great, perfect picture of the type of misinformation that's being fed to the American public by American media and global media. And it's always, Zelensky did this country did this, Ukraine did this against Russia, and pitting, Ukraine versus Russia. Like, do you have a blue and yellow flag, or do you have this flag? It's like, stop it. Like, you guys are, like, don't be gay. Like, that's dumb. Like, that's not how it works. It's not how it works at all. Ukraine's not that capable of anything. I'm sure they have a couple industries, like outside of porn and some of the other stuff. Like what else, Tom? What's Ukraine good at?
Bare knuckle boxing and snuff films.
Yeah. So like,
What a list.
good for you guys. That's awesome. I'm sure there's
Bread.
a couple other things. But
Yeah, I was going to say they
bread.
grow a crap ton of
Agriculture.
grain, right?
Yeah.
But they just don't read those headlines and think like, oh man, like same thing with U.S., Iran, Israel. Like, don't read the headlines and be like, this happened. Take a step back and be like, okay, how did this really happen? Who has the means to make this happen? And why would they utilize their chips or cards on the board to do this? Like, that's what it all comes back down to. And I'm growing tired of people just taking the CNN headline and being like, "Did you see what they did? Did you see the ghost of Kiev?" Like, stop it.
Do you mean like
Can't be friends.
You mean like renting a yacht and diving 300 feet or whatever it was to the bottom of the ocean floor and finding the Nord Stream pipeline and putting a charge to it?
I mean, exactly like that. These Ukrainians are amazing. No, maritime branches.
Well, Well, I wanna pull on that thread for a little bit and just who stands to benefit from Ukraine doing that to Russia in this timeline of doing that.
It's the perfect smokescreen because it can appear as though it's a Ukrainian target of opportunity and anti-Russia because of everything that's gone on. But given the effect it's going to have outside of that, it looks very pro-U.S. and anti-China and Russia, this axis, and by extension, right, to Iran. It's just the way it is. Because of the interconnectedness of the world and the energy market that has been under attack now for a long time, like that's what it is. That's what it looks like.
Well, and if,
to those
if
with eyes to see.
If you're Ukraine, I guess you can argue that you're dealing a blow to Russia being able to generate more money for its economy, but also you're talking about Russia exporting oil, and if Russia is no longer exporting it and making money off of it, I guess they can refine it and put it back into their war vehicles that are still invaded in your country. So that's why I'm saying, like, what would the Ukrainians stand to benefit if it was them that did it at this point?
It's like the counterpoint to President Trump doing the temporary sanctions relief on Russian oil already at sea, right? Well, fine. If you're going to do that and they're going to make money there, then there's going to be a cost to that, and we're going to go hit the largest oil depot they have. So whatever they were about to recoup isn't going to be recouped. You know, these are things you could say. I obviously don't know that that's the truth, but that's a plausible argument. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I also don't think, like, Ukraine doesn't matter. Like, the people don't really matter. The government certainly doesn't matter. And in this case, Ukraine is a pawn in our game. Like, they're just a piece on the board. So, like, which obviously everyone in this conversation knows, but, like, there can be some, like, we give them wins on the surface in certain things, but it's like, what do they stand to gain from this? Like, well, it's like, who cares what they gain from this? Like, they're just, the intel world and the national security world is a means to an end game. So, like, you know, we want to strike a blow to Russia and China, especially, not just here, but especially given what's going on down here in South Asia. Like that's, I think for the people listening, like, because a lot of people probably ask that question, like, well, what about Ukraine? Like, the only people who care about Ukraine are Ukraine. Like, no one else, like, literally no one, like, and that sounds so mean, but, like, I don't give a shit, and I promise you, our government and my former employers don't care at all about you. Like, they just don't. Right. Like, you are a means to an end, and that's just how it goes. And it's not a nice or a clean game, but it's the game. Like, we will use you and abuse you to get what we want and to send the messages and optics to our enemies that we want to send. And it will look like it's you, but they know it's like, Xi Jinping and Vlad aren't sitting around and being like, I can't believe Ukraine did that. They're like, all right, the U.S. did this.
Right.
How do we respond? Like,
well,
like that's...
well, Ukraine is America's Make-A-Wish military, where it's like we give them a couple of wins so they can report it. Hey, you know, we're making strides against the evil Russians. When, like you're saying, everybody knows it's not them, but they're getting the credit for it.
Right.
Yeah, I want to back Drew up, too, because people are going to think that we just started using them to do this, but that's not the case. It's just up until Russia invaded under the Biden administration, we had been using them for the longest time as a border state. They were a blocking position for the longest of time of, okay, Russia, you can go this far.
Crimea.
And so here's the border between Russia and NATO alliances, and Ukraine can exist in that gray space. Why do you think we turned a blind eye for so long about the fact that they've been, like, so high on the corrupt country index?
Yeah.
Because it's fine, you know, it can be the Wild West, the demilitarized zone with a legitimate name between Russia and NATO, and they were existing there forever until it became more politically expedient to use them as an offensive piece on the board, to your point, and then that's how they've been utilized since then.
Well, the last point I'll make on this before I have to jump is that we are, to your point about extracting things from them and using them, we have their military on U.S. soil often, teaching us what they're doing with maritime drones versus the Russian Navy, because that's all the Ukrainians can do. And at the same time, that's it. It's a laboratory of things to see what they can do and the strides they're making, so we don't have to. If you can do all the work and all the risk is on your end, and then we can reap the benefit of the education that comes from this. I mean, then how many examples are there of the United States doing this? This is just another one.
Oh, you see it with, this is the R&D for Palmer Luckey's, business with all the FPV drones that are being flown there. What works, what doesn't work, how does it, it's real time, R&D for his company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, appreciate you guys hanging out and talking today. I know for those of you guys listening, this is a bit of a shorter episode. Not every episode, I guess, will be 2 hours. We do try to get there. But thank you guys so much for listening. Please check out the show notes. You can go over to Balls and Banter and watch Drew and Tom be cute all you want over there. Their episodes are on YouTube and other places. Look how handsome they are. And you can catch Chris and I on I Came with Fire podcast or Live Fire, our live show over on Rumble. So thank you guys for listening to another episode of No Party Affiliation, and we'll catch you next time.
This concludes our scheduled programming.